Laziness at work? What are the most common reasons why your employees lack motivation? Yes, above all, it's about money because money is very important. When your employee is wondering whether they'll have enough to pay the bills, whether they'll have enough for medicine, or even enough to have something to eat at all, believe me, they won't be able to focus on work. And I know that maybe you want to keep scrolling and don't want to watch me anymore. In that case, believe me, you'll be losing your employees. But don't worry, I'm not going to force you to pay your employees more. I wanted to talk to you more about how you can increase your employees' productivity even when your company is temporarily going through a crisis, because I've noticed that many companies are experiencing crises, whether due to inflation, various wars, or even inappropriate policies. But we won't be talking about that because that's not what this channel is about. Instead, we'll focus on how to boost employee motivation during these challenging times. As you know, we've recently gone through a period, literally 3 years, when inflation soared to its highest levels, and at the same time, people became more focused on social media, and worst of all, stopped talking to each other. So, what happened as a result? In reality, many people started experiencing sadness, depression, and an inability to cope with various kinds of problems. What's more, nowadays there's a common belief that if someone is considered toxic or complains about their situation, they're often labeled as such, and many friends are capable of cutting that person off. So, what should you do about it? Imagine that as an employer, you should remember that you're not hiring robots. You're hiring people, and even a simple friendly gesture like a handshake or a smile matters. I know it costs you a lot, because you have your own problems too. But if you offer something like that to your employee, it already means a lot to them. Don't worry about what your employee might think that you're foolish or insincere. Let them think what they want, but some people will appreciate it. Believe me, I see it myself among many people who have serious life problems, and yet being treated warmly by their boss brings good results. These people try to do their work diligently and remain loyal to the company. Also remember, as a boss, that your employee is not a machine and can have good days and bad days. If you invest your money, you probably know very well that your financial life goes through a kind of financial sine wave. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. But even when that sine wave is at the bottom, in reality, an upswing is just around the corner. It's the same with an employee. An employee can also have a bad day, maybe because he had an argument with his wife. Or, for example, another situation is his child ended up in the hospital. I know you might be thinking, I don't care about that. I need to see results at work. But believe me, be human. Of course, don't let yourself be deceived, because if your employee lied to you that their child was in the hospital, but in reality just needed time off to go to Mallorca, trust me, such behavior, and I'm telling you this as your employee, should never be tolerated. It's good if you don't lie to your employee, but the employee also shouldn't lie to you, and you simply trust each other. Another aspect of managing employee performance, because that's what matters to you as a bosses, above all the smart allocation of tasks. First and foremost, you should start your day by assigning tasks so that time simply works to your advantage. Tasks need to be laid out as simply as if you were speaking to a 6-year-old. I know you don't want to underestimate your employees' intelligence, but try to explain how the work should be done in such a straightforward way that even a 6-year-old would understand the instructions. That way, you can be sure the task will get done. You can also ask the employee if they understood what you said, and if there's something they didn't understand, kindly let them know that they can tell you about it, because maybe they are a foreigner and didn't fully understand you. Try not to speak too quickly so that your information doesn't come across as chaotic. Trust me, invest 5 more minutes in this conversation with your employee, and you'll see that the results in your company will soon improve. There will be fewer mistakes, fewer accidents, and your company will stop paying contractual penalties. Employees will start achieving their goals. What's more, since I am also an employee, we will start setting goals for ourselves. And you won't even have to set those goals for us because we'll be setting them ourselves. Of course, don't try to make sure your expectations aren't too high. Be realistic. You can sometimes stretch the deadline a little, but don't overdo it. Because if an employee sees that they're being given unrealistic deadlines for a given task, at some point they'll start to experience something like burnout. And why is that dangerous? Because that employee will literally leave you from one day to the next and might not even train another employee. Even if that's what you had planned, they'll just leave plain and simple from one day to the next. You lose a key employee because, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, burnout actually starts with someone being engaged and passionate about their work, and then later they become burnt out professionally. That's why it's so important to take care of your employees' motivation. Be human. Sometimes have a word, talk to your employee as you would to another person, as a business partner or as a potential client. Treat them with respect, and you'll see that soon enough their face will light up with a smile and they'll start treating you simply as a friend, not an opponent. And after all, that's what it's all about at work, in business, and in relationships in general. Let's take care of each other, because maybe one day your employee will take care of you when you have an urgent project to complete, and they'll say, yes, boss, we'll do it. I'll come in for overtime, and I know it will cost me a lot, but I'll do my best to meet your expectations. At the very least, they'll try. However, if they are not treated properly by you, their motivation will only decrease. And if you don't appreciate them, if you don't value their commitment, their motivation will also go down. Because many bosses think that since they pay a salary, that alone is enough to recognize the value of an employee. Theoretically, you're right, but a genuinely kind word, a sincere handshake, and if you truly tell them that you profoundly respect them and are indeed deeply grateful that they conscientiously came to work when they genuinely didn't have to, you'll undoubtedly see their commitment will also significantly grow and flourish. Of course, you can certainly expect that they might indeed write to you, perhaps asking for a significant raise in their compensation, but we will definitely talk about that in a completely separate video at a later time. But we will definitely discuss this important matter thoroughly and come back to this crucial topic in due course. Please do not forget to like, share, and enthusiastically show your friends and colleagues that they can indeed achieve significantly better and more sustainable results through excellent and proactive cooperation with their dedicated employees.